Did Alien create a monster, or a whole black market of monsters? After Ridley Scott's Nightmare hit theaters, low-budget studios smelled blood, slime, and easy money. Some copied the eggs, some copied the chest bursting, some even tried to steal the name. Lawyers noticed, audiences noticed. And today, we're counting down 20 Alien ripoffs so shameless, they almost feel like evidence in court. Number 20. The Alien Dead, 1980. Before some studios copied the creature, others copied the most valuable thing first, the word alien. The Alien Dead is not a serious space horror film like Ridley Scott's classic. It is a cheap swamp zombie movie from low-budget legend Fred Olen Ray. But its title tells you everything about the business mood after Alien exploded. If audiences were suddenly afraid of something called an alien, then why not slap that word on a poster and hope people bought a ticket? The movie is about a meteor crashing into a swamp and turning dead people into flesh-hungry monsters. So no, there is no elegant spaceship, no corporate conspiracy, no H.R. Giger nightmare hiding in steam and shadows. But there is that same shameless trick. Take a successful title, bend it into your own cheap horror package, and sell it fast before anyone asks too many questions. Its famous scene is the swamp attack, where the undead rise from muddy water and attack locals with that messy drive-in energy. What is happening in the movie is simple. A town discovers that the swamp is no longer just dangerous because of alligators. Something from space has poisoned death itself. As an Alien ripoff, it is more marketing theft than story theft. But that matters, because this was the first warning sign. After Alien, even the title became something other studios wanted to feed on. Number 19. Alien 2. On Earth, 1980. Now this one is where the shameless meter breaks. Alien 2. On Earth did not hide its inspiration. It walked right up to the original movie, borrowed the name, and acted like it belonged in the family. This Italian production was marketed as an unofficial follow-up, even though it had nothing to do with Ridley Scott, 20th Century Fox, Sigourney Weaver, or the real Xenomorph universe. The story begins after a space mission returns to Earth with something terrible attached to it. But instead of staying in deep space, the horror moves underground. A group of cave explorers finds strange blue rocks, and one of those rocks opens like a nightmare egg. Soon, a creature attacks a woman's face, and the cave becomes a dark, cramped death trap. The famous scene is the face attack in the cave. It is not as iconic as the facehugger scene from Alien, but the intention is obvious. A small group is trapped. A strange organism uses human bodies. Panic spreads in a closed space. What is happening in the movie is basically Alien pulled down from the stars and thrown into a cave system. Its boldest crime was not just copying the formula. It was pretending to be a sequel before the real franchise had even properly continued. That is not inspiration. That is cinematic identity theft with a flashlight and a rubber monster. Number 18. Contamination, 1980. Contamination may be the most famous Italian alien cash-in, and for good reason. It takes the part everyone remembered, the exploding body horror, and builds an entire movie around it. Directed by Luigi Cozzi, the film begins in New York, where a mysterious cargo ship arrives with no living crew and boxes full of strange green eggs. The eggs pulse, the eggs leak, and if you get too close, your body does not survive the experience. The plot follows investigators who trace the eggs to a larger alien plan, involving a one-eyed monster and a human conspiracy. It is not elegant, but it understands what made Alien marketable: mystery, biological horror, and the fear that the human body can become the crime scene. The famous scene is the egg explosion sequence. A character gets hit by the alien fluid, his stomach swells, and then the movie goes full gore show. What is happening in the movie is pure exploitation cinema. The filmmakers are taking the chest-burster shock from Alien and asking, what if we just did that louder, wetter, and more often? The legal heat around this one came from the title. It was reportedly going to be called Alien 2, until Fox's lawyers pushed back. That tells you everything. Contamination did not just chase the audience. It chased the brand name too. Number 17. Inseminoid, 1981. If Alien was nightmare science fiction with class, Inseminoid was the same nightmare dragged into a tabloid headline. Also known as Horror Planet in the United States, this British film follows a team of archaeologists and scientists working on a frozen alien world. They are exploring ancient ruins, studying crystals, and trying to understand a dead civilization. Then one crew member, Sandy, is attacked by an alien creature, becomes pregnant, and slowly turns into a violent threat to everyone around her. This is where the alien influence becomes painfully clear. A remote planet, a small team, ancient alien ruins, a hostile organism using the human body. But Inseminoid pushes the reproductive horror much harder and much nastier. It is less interested in suspense and more interested in shock. The famous scene is Sandy's alien pregnancy and the later birth sequence. What is happening in the movie is horrifying because the crew is not only trapped with an outside monster, they are trapped with one of their own, now controlled by something alien, stronger than before, and hunting them through the base. The film became notorious partly because of its graphic material and partly because it felt like someone watched Alien and said, "Let's remove the mystery and turn the body horror up until people complain." It is shameless, ugly, and unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Number 16. The Terror Within, 1989. By 1989, the alien influence had merged with the influence of aliens, and The Terror Within is a perfect example. Instead of a lone spaceship crew, this film gives us survivors in an underground facility after the world has been devastated by plague and mutants. The people inside think the sealed bunker is protection. Then a dangerous creature gets in, and the safe place becomes a hunting ground. The plot follows a small group of survivors trying to maintain order, while monstrous beings called gargoyles threaten humanity outside. When one infected victim is brought into the facility, the real horror begins. The creature grows, stalks the corridors, and forces the humans into a desperate fight inside their own shelter. The famous scene is the creature's attack inside the bunker, where the survivors realize their walls have trapped the monster in with them. What is happening in the movie is alien logic in a post-apocalyptic setting. The enemy is not outside anymore. It is breathing in the next room. The shameless connection comes from the corridor stalking, the creature life cycle, and the tension of people trapped in metal spaces. But The Terror Within also borrows from the more action-heavy mood of Aliens, with armed survivors, military panic, and bunker warfare. It is not elegant, but it is effective in that late 80s video store way. You can almost see the cover art promising viewers, "Remember that thing you liked? Here it is again, cheaper." Number 15. Galaxy of Terror, 1981. Roger Corman knew a hit formula when he saw one. With Galaxy of Terror, he did not simply copy Alien. He threw it into a cosmic nightmare machine. The film follows a rescue crew sent to the mysterious planet Morganthus, where they discover a strange pyramid and begin dying in bizarre, personalized ways. The setup is pure post-alien cinema. A crew lands on an unknown world, explores a strange structure, and realizes too late that something is waiting for them. But Galaxy of Terror adds a strange psychological twist. The pyramid seems to turn each person's fear into reality. So the monster is not just in the shadows, it is in the mind. That idea makes the film weirder than a normal ripoff, even when the production design and creature attacks clearly chase the alien crowd. The famous scene is the giant maggot attack, one of the most infamous moments in 80s sci-fi horror. What is happening in the movie is not just a monster attack. It is fear becoming physical, violent, and impossible to escape. This film is also remembered because a young James Cameron worked on the production side before becoming the director who would later make Aliens. That makes Galaxy of Terror feel like a strange missing link, a cheap alien imitation that accidentally connects to the real franchise's future. It is shameless, but it has ambition under the slime. Number 14. Forbidden World, 1982. Forbidden World is another Roger Corman production, and this time the copying gets even more direct. Originally connected to the title Mutant, the movie takes place at a genetic research station on the desert planet Zarbia. Scientists are trying to create an artificial life form called Subject 20 to solve a food crisis. But because this is an alien ripoff, the experiment mutates, escapes, and starts turning the lab into a slaughterhouse. The plot is simple but effective. A military troubleshooter arrives to investigate, but the scientists are too proud, too secretive, or too foolish to admit how bad things have become. The creature grows, changes, hides, and attacks from inside the station. The whole film feels like Alien crossed with a mad science lab movie. The famous scene is the monster's messy transformation inside the lab, where the creature becomes less like an experiment and more like a hungry biological disaster. What is happening in the movie is the classic warning. Humans create life, humans underestimate life, and then life starts eating humans. The shameless part is the mood. Dark corridors, wet alien biology, isolated crew, one creature loose in a facility. It all comes straight from the Alien playbook. But Forbidden World has enough punk energy, weird editing, and low-budget confidence to become entertaining on its own. It is not classy, it is not subtle, but it knows exactly what audience it is hunting. Number 13. Parasite, 1982. Parasite is not set in deep space, but its debt to Alien is right there in the title creature. This post-apocalyptic horror film stars Demi Moore in one of her early roles and follows a scientist carrying a dangerous experimental parasite in a future wasteland. The parasite is not just a disease, it is a living organism that can enter bodies, grow inside them, and burst out with nasty results. The movie is about a world where science and survival have both gone rotten. The scientist, Paul Dean, is trying to stop the creature he helped create, while a brutal government agent wants to recover it. Along the way, innocent people get pulled into the nightmare, and the parasite becomes the real star of the show. The famous scene is the body-bursting attack, where the creature tears out of a victim in a way that practically waves at Alien from across the room. What is happening in the movie is body horror on a budget. The human body becomes the container, the incubator, and finally the explosion. What makes Parasite interesting is that it relocates alien fear into a dirty future America. Instead of a clean starship, we get dusty towns, broken roads, and desperate survivors. But the core idea is familiar. A living horror hides inside flesh, and nobody is safe once it starts growing. That is not coincidence. That is a formula being recycled. Number 12. Extro, 1982. Extro is one of the strangest films on this list because it does not simply copy Alien. It copies the fear of alien biology and then takes it into pure nightmare logic. The story begins when a father named Sam disappears after a strange light in the sky. Years later, he returns, but he is no longer fully human. His son Tony becomes connected to him, and soon the family home fills with psychic powers, alien reproduction, and scenes that feel like they escaped from a bad dream. The alien influence is strongest in the film's body horror. The famous scene is the adult alien birth sequence, where a woman gives birth to a fully grown man. What is happening in the movie is not a normal monster attack. It is alien life invading the human world through reproduction, identity, and family trauma. Unlike many ripoffs, Extro is less interested in corridors and more interested in contamination. The alien does not just kill people. It changes the rules of reality around a child. Toys come alive. A clown becomes terrifying. The home becomes as unsafe as the Nostromo. Calling Extro a direct copy would be too simple, but calling it part of the post-alien slime wave is fair. It understands that after 1979, audiences were terrified of aliens, not because they had laser guns, but because they could get inside us, remake us, and turn birth into horror. Number 11. The Being, 1983. The Being takes the alien monster formula and dumps it into a small-town pollution story. The movie is set in Idaho, where toxic waste has created a strange creature that begins attacking locals. On paper, that sounds more like an environmental horror film than an alien knockoff. But once the monster starts hiding, stalking, and bursting into scenes with slimy aggression, the connection becomes clear. The plot follows a detective and scientists trying to understand what is killing people around the town. The creature is the product of contamination, corporate carelessness, and classic low-budget monster logic. It is not from a distant planet in the same way as the xenomorph, but it behaves like a creature designed for post-alien audiences. Wet, ugly, fast, and always more dangerous when you cannot see it clearly. The famous scene is the creature attack involving a car, where the monster suddenly turns a normal moment into panic. What is happening in the movie is the everyday world becoming infected by something unnatural. The threat is not on a spaceship. It is in the community's own backyard. The shameless element is not the plot detail. It is the texture, the dark reveals, the slimy creature effects, the fear of mutation, the people who slowly realize the authorities are hiding the truth. All of it feels like a bargain bin cousin of Alien. It is messy, but it belongs in this family of imitators. Number 10. The Deadly Spawn, 1983. The Deadly Spawn is what happens when filmmakers take the mouth-inside-a-mouth terror of Alien and build an entire creature feature around teeth. Lots of teeth. Too many teeth. The movie begins after a meteorite crashes to Earth, releasing alien monsters that hide in the basement of a house. A family and a group of unlucky visitors soon become lunch. This film is cheaper than Alien, smaller than Alien, and much less polished. But it has one major strength. The monster effects are disgusting in a lovable way. The alien spawn look like writhing piles of jaws and hunger. They do not have the elegant nightmare design of Giger's xenomorph, but they absolutely understand the value of a creature that feels like pure appetite. The famous scene is the basement attack, where people discover that the house is not safe because the creatures are breeding below them. What is happening in the movie is a domestic invasion. The horror is not in space, but under the floorboards, waiting for someone to step too close. Its alternate marketing titles leaned hard into the alien craze, and the film's DNA is obvious. A hostile organism comes from space, grows quickly, hides in enclosed spaces, and turns people into meat. It may not have a giant studio behind it, but the deadly spawn has the same basic nightmare. Once alien life enters your world, the walls themselves become traps. Number 9. Creature, 1985. Creature, also known as Titan Find, is one of the most open American attempts to recreate the alien experience. The film follows two rival corporate space crews investigating an ancient alien discovery on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. They find ruins, dead bodies, and a creature that begins using people in horrifying ways. Already, the checklist is glowing red. Hostile moon, corporate mission, ancient alien remains, small crew, monster in the dark. The film stars Klaus Kinski, which gives it a strange extra flavor because he seems like he wandered in from a different, more dangerous movie. But the real attraction is the monster and the atmosphere. The crew explores a dead alien site, and the setting clearly wants to echo the mystery of the derelict ship in Alien. The famous scene is the discovery of the creature and the bodies it has affected. What is happening in the movie is the crew slowly realizing they are not dealing with a simple animal. This thing uses the dead, manipulates fear, and turns the mission into a corporate graveyard. Creature is not the worst ripoff because it has real craft in places. The sets are moody, the premise is fun, the monster has presence. But let's not pretend it arrived from nowhere. It was born in the shadow of the xenomorph, and every dark hallway knows it. Number 8. Biohazard, 1985. Biohazard is the kind of movie that feels like someone tried to remake Alien after only hearing about it from a friend. The plot involves an alien creature brought to Earth through a psychic experiment. A researcher makes contact with another dimension, but instead of wisdom or peaceful communication, humanity gets a deadly monster that begins killing people. This is a low-budget monster movie, with a simple lesson: never open a door to another world unless you have a very good exterminator. The creature is not as sleek or iconic as the xenomorph, but its function is similar. It is an outside organism loose in human space, and once it appears, the film becomes a hunt. The famous scene is the creature escaping and attacking in the lab-like setting. What is happening in the movie is the collapse of scientific control. People thought they were studying the unknown, but the unknown had teeth. The Shameless alien connection comes through the body horror atmosphere and the basic creature-on-the-loose structure. The movie does not have a massive spaceship, but it does have the same warning: curiosity can bring something back that should have stayed buried in the dark. Biohazard is not famous today, but it belongs on this list because it shows how far the alien formula traveled. Even the cheapest productions understood that one monster, one trapped group, and one bad experiment could fill an entire film. Number 7. Breeders, 1986. Breeders takes the reproductive horror side of Alien and pushes it into sleazy exploitation territory. The story is set in New York, where women are attacked by a mysterious creature connected to alien biology. A doctor and a detective begin investigating, and the trail leads toward a hidden underground nightmare. This is not a classy movie. It is not trying to be. It takes the fear of alien reproduction, removes the elegance of science fiction, and turns everything into shock material. In Alien, the reproductive cycle was terrifying because it was mysterious, clinical, and almost insect-like. In Breeders, that idea is used in a much more blunt and controversial way. The famous scene is the underground reveal, where the investigation points toward a lair-like space connected to the creature's purpose. What is happening in the movie is a city horror story turning into an alien body horror trap. The monster is not only attacking people, it is trying to continue its own species through human victims. The connection to Alien is obvious in the fear of the body being used by something inhuman. But Breeders does not have Ridley Scott's restraint. It is loud, rough, and designed to make viewers uncomfortable quickly. That is why it feels so shameless. It does not borrow Alien's atmosphere as much as it steals one disturbing idea and builds an entire exploitation movie around it. Number 6. Star Crystal, 1986. At first glance, Star Crystal looks like another straightforward Alien copy. A crew in space encounters a mysterious alien organism. People start dying. The survivors hide inside a spacecraft while the creature moves through the ship. The setup is so familiar that you almost expect someone to say, "Please do not touch the egg." The movie begins with astronauts recovering a strange crystal from Mars. Inside is an alien life form that eventually hatches and grows aboard a spaceship. The crew realizes too late that the creature is intelligent, dangerous, and extremely hard to contain. So far, pure alien territory. But then Star Crystal does something bizarre. The alien, named Gar, is not simply a monster. As the story develops, the film shifts into a strange emotional direction, almost asking the audience to sympathize with the creature. That twist makes the movie memorable, even if the first half feels like it was printed from the Alien instruction manual. The famous scene is the creature's movement through the ship after it has grown large enough to threaten the crew. What is happening in the movie is the old formula. A space crew brings back something unknown, and the unknown starts controlling the ship's fate. What makes Star Crystal shameless is how directly it begins as a space monster stalker film. What makes it weirdly special is that it refuses to stay there. It copies Alien, then suddenly tries to hug the monster. Number 5. Lily Cat, 1987. Lily Cat feels less like a movie inspired by Alien and more like an animated copy that also stole a few pages from The Thing. This Japanese science fiction horror film follows the crew of the deep space vessel Saldas, sent on a long corporate mission to survey a distant planet. After decades in suspended sleep, the passengers wake up to discover that something has entered the ship. People are dying from a mysterious infection, and the company may know far more than it admits. The alien fingerprints are everywhere. A working-class space crew, a cold corporate mission, a strange organism brought aboard without permission. Dark industrial corridors. Even a cat moves through the ship, while the humans slowly realize they are trapped with something that can infect, dissolve, and imitate them. The famous scene is the medical room transformation, where an infected crew member's body begins breaking apart as the alien bacteria spreads through the flesh. What is happening in the movie is worse than a simple monster attack. The organism is learning from its victims, changing its form, and turning the ship itself into a living trap. What makes Lily Cat so shameless is how confidently it combines Alien's spaceship nightmare with The Thing's shape-shifting paranoia. But the animation allows the body horror to become even stranger and more disturbing than many live-action copies could afford. It may be animated, but this is not harmless science fiction. It is the xenomorph formula redrawn in ink, mixed with corporate betrayal, and sent back into space with a cat on board. Number 4. Deep Star 6, 1989. Deep Star 6 is often described as Alien underwater, and honestly, that description does most of the work. Directed by Sean S. Cunningham, the man behind Friday the 13th, the film follows a crew working in a deep-sea military installation. They accidentally disturb a prehistoric sea creature, and soon their high-tech underwater base becomes a pressure cooker full of panic, leaks, and death. The movie is not about aliens from space, but the structure is pure alien. A small crew in an isolated industrial environment. A non-human creature hiding in the machinery. Corporate and military pressure. No easy escape. Claustrophobia everywhere. Replace the stars with ocean pressure, and the formula still works. The famous scene is the decompression death involving one of the panicked crew members. What is happening in the movie is not just monster horror, it is environmental horror. Even if the creature does not get you, the ocean might. What makes Deep Star 6 shameless is that it arrived during a wave of underwater sci-fi horror movies, all chasing the same idea. If space worked for Alien, maybe the deep sea could work too. And in fairness, the ocean is a smart replacement. It is dark, unknown, and hostile. But the film's heart is still beating in a borrowed chest. The monster may come from below, but the business plan came from the Nostromo. Number 3. Leviathan, 1989. Leviathan is the polished cousin of Deep Star 6, and it might be one of the most watchable Alien imitators ever made. The film follows an underwater mining crew that discovers a wrecked Soviet ship. Inside, they find clues to a secret experiment, and soon a mutating organism begins infecting the crew. People do not just die, they change. That is where Leviathan borrows not only from Alien, but also from The Thing. Still, the Alien skeleton is clear. An isolated crew, a hostile environment, a mysterious biological threat, and a monster that turns the workplace into a tomb. The cast, including Peter Weller, gives the film more weight than many cheaper rip-offs, and the production design makes the underwater station feel cold, metallic, and believable. The famous scene is the body mutation reveal, where infected crew members become part of a growing creature. What is happening in the movie is a nightmare of contamination. The monster is not only attacking from outside, it is rewriting people from within. Leviathan is shameless, but it is not lazy. It understands why Alien worked. The setting must feel real, the crew must feel tired and human, and the creature must feel like a biological insult. This film copies the formula with better actors, better sets, and bigger ambition. It may not escape the shadow of Alien, but at least it looks good while standing there. Number 2. Shocking Dark, 1989. If Alien 2 on Earth stole the name, Shocking Dark stole the homework from multiple classmates. This Italian film, directed by Bruno Mattei, is also known as Terminator 2 in some markets, which already tells you how wild the marketing was. But beneath that fake Terminator bait is a movie that borrows heavily from Aliens. The story is set in a polluted future Venice, where a team of soldiers enters a dangerous facility and finds monsters, survivors, and a larger conspiracy. The squad banter, the armored team, the little girl in danger element, the corridor firefights, it all feels like a bargain version of James Cameron's Aliens. At times, scenes feel less inspired by Aliens and more like they are trying to remember it from a bootleg tape. The famous scene is the soldiers moving through the dark facility as creatures attack from the shadows. What is happening in the movie is a rescue mission turning into a monster siege. The humans think they are armed enough. They are not. What makes Shocking Dark so shameless is the confidence. It does not gently borrow, it grabs. It combines Aliens with the Terminator, changes the location, and hopes the chaos distracts you. For fans of ripoffs, that is exactly the appeal. It is not a hidden influence. It is a cinematic copy machine overheating in real time. Number 1. Alien from the Deep, 1989. With a title like Alien from the Deep, subtlety has already left the building. Directed by Antonio Margheriti, this Italian sci-fi horror film mixes environmental disaster, jungle adventure, evil corporations, volcanic danger, and a giant alien creature. It does not have the clean structure of Alien, but it absolutely cashes in on the same promise. Somewhere dark and hostile, something inhuman is waiting. The story follows activists investigating illegal toxic waste dumping on a remote tropical island. The pollution and corporate wrongdoing connect to a monstrous alien threat, and soon the characters are fighting not only corrupt humans, but a massive creature that seems designed to dominate the poster. Instead of a spaceship, we get industrial plants, caves, and volcanic landscapes. But the mood is familiar. Humans disturb something they cannot control, and the creature becomes the punishment. The famous scene is the giant clawed alien emerging in the industrial setting. What is happening in the movie is pure late 80s exploitation. Environmental panic meets monster spectacle. The humans are small, the corporation is guilty, and the alien is the nightmare consequence. This is number 1 because it captures the whole rip-off era perfectly. It has the word alien. It has gooey monster danger. It has foreign market boldness. It has that fearless attitude of a studio saying, yes, you have seen something like this before, but ours is louder. It is shameless, strange, and completely part of the xenomorph's unofficial family tree. So there you have it. 20 films that chased Alien through caves, labs, oceans, bunkers, and bargain bin space stations. Some faced real legal heat. Others simply ran fast enough to survive. But one thing is clear. When Alien became a hit, it did not just inspire filmmakers. It made them hungry. And some of them were hungry enough to copy the monster's teeth.